All right, let's do a little bit of this, okay? Maybe some of this, and then like that, and possibly go from there. Oh, sure, yeah, hello. Okay, as I say, what's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. Today's the 25th of July, 2026. This is a video under our main side, one of the 4 sides to us as In The Image Clothing Company, where our slogan is allowing the body to work, okay? The body. Why are we a clothing company? Why are we a clothing company? Let's ask it a third time. Why are we a clothing company? Clothing, the literal wording of anything physically placed onto the human being. Clothing has to, at very least, okay, at very baseline, stay centered, fit correct, and be made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials. The literal word of clothing the body with anything, God designed the body to work. Okay, hear me out. Meaning, listen to this, okay? The human being, designed in the image of God, in the image of Jesus Christ. That's why we're a clothing company. Within this universal human design, we've got bones, ligaments, tendons, and muscles, organs, functionality. The bodies are all the same. The body truly is just measurable mathematical degrees of hinges, levers, and rotations, determined by the shape and length of our bones that grow by themselves within this universal human design. It only is what it is, okay? It can only do what it can do, okay? And that's it, truly, okay? So the bones connect directly to each other through ligaments. They're just an extremely specific shape and length, okay? The bones grow by themselves. It's only what it is. There's a thin layer of cushioning called cartilage between these bones so they don't wear each other out, okay? But if they're not meshing properly, they could wear out the cushioning between them, and then the bones could wear each other out, really. And that happens, you know? People get pain. So, muscles in the body, they only pull. Muscles connecting to bones through tendons take the end points at the bones where they're connecting and pull them together. There's always opposing muscles. Muscles on the back side of the same function pull to extend or pull to close. Okay, opposing muscles will do opposing things. The body has a neutral position to its entirety because that's how physics works. We truly just abide by universal laws. Physics, okay? Earth's vertical gravity pull that comes vertically down and meshes to the horizontal surface of the planet Earth. It's a 90-degree right perpendicular angle, and our bodies just mesh with Earth's vertical gravity pull with their center line. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, the jaw. These are things in the center line of the human being, meshing with the vertical pull to gravity, and that's just how the human being stands up. As I'm saying, there's always even opposing musculature from a neutral position. It's just determined by the shape and length of the bones. They can only move and mesh in line the way they're shaped with each other, like having different length forefingers wrapping evenly around a different length opposable thumb. It plays an entirely different function than the fingers do. Well, there's a center line to the body, and it's also the neutral position to stand up in. You either lean left or lean right, but there's a neutral, and this neutral has even opposing musculature connecting from the right side and the left side in to the center line of the body. Okay? It just is what it is. There's only one way the human body could ever work. It's always been the exact same, and it always will. A lot of people are very misunderstanding of it because we get into such deep patterning as human beings. So, let me tell you this video's title. We'll discuss what we do with clothing, meaning I'll discuss what I discuss right here with clothing, but then we'll get into this discussion, okay? Deeper than that. Wow. Okay. 25th of July, 2026, in the Image Clothing Company's main site here. The title of this video is How the Shoulders Pull on the Skull. We'll talk about this, okay? Because Clothing, the literal wording of anything physically placed on us: hats, gloves, jewelry, pants, socks, tops, glasses, undergarments. If you have a bag over your shoulder, if you've got just anything you're carrying over your shoulder, or anything at all like this placed onto the body physically, it's the literal word of clothing, the body. The way that God clothes the fields with grass, as it says in the Holy Bible, we clothe our bodies with things, okay? Things get placed onto our bodies physically, and we have a physical body on this physical earth, abiding by physical laws that we don't get to decide or change. And our bodies grow by themselves, and so we don't get to decide or change how they work either. Okay. Wow. We've got a 10-pound ball of weight, somewhere around 10 pounds, give or take. The head, the skull of a human being. On top of our bodies, it has to be supported on top of our bodies. If our head fell off to the left side, or just leaned off to the left side, we would fall over to our left side, because gravity would pull us down, but we wouldn't be centered over the vertical support of the bone above the hips of the human being, which is the spine. In the center line of the body, all these little bones stack up, called vertebrae, to create the spine. It's in the very center of the body, and that's where this even opposing musculature from both the right and the left side of the body connects into. Okay, and we have to keep this spine meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull, but also just straight beneath this, you can really call it a ball of weight, the head or the skull of the human being. The spine needs to come up and connect just right into the very bottom of the skull in the center of it. Okay, this video's title, the 25th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site, spoken by me, Evan Strong, the founder and leader for life of In the Image Clothing Company. How the shoulders pull on the skull. Okay, well, there's a few things going on here. Now, there's a whole lot of things going on here. Let's discuss some of it, though. With pulling on the skull, because if we leaned our head right, or our whole skull right, this big 10-pound, give or take, ball of weight on top of our spine, leaning the head right, or the skull right, we would just fall to the right, because the vertical support of bone underneath it, it stays directly vertical with Earth's vertical gravity pull, this spine of ours as human beings, has to just vertically support the skull. But there's a neutral position to the entire body. Wow. That's crazy. There truly is only one way the human body could ever work. It's just, that's an awesome way to say that, because I don't have a claim on that. It's always been the truth, and it always will be. Anything that ever is true always is going forth, as well as it was always in the past. Okay. God, being called the truth, is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Jesus Christ, who we are designed in the image of. There's only one way this universal human design grows. You can have a different body, and we address differences if and where, but you can only be different from something, which is the universal human design. So that's why I'm saying this as I am, where we can have things that are different. We can have our skull lean off to the left side of our bodies. But that's an imbalance on Earth's vertical gravity pull. We can have our skull lean off to the right side of our bodies, but that's an imbalance on Earth's vertical gravity pull that meshes with our spine, in the center line of the human being. Okay, so, yeah, the 25th of July, 2026, this video's title, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here, spoken by me. How many times do I say this kind of stuff, right? Evan Strong, the founder and leader for life of In the Image Clothing Company. How the shoulder pulls on the skull. Okay, well, like that. It does naturally, but evenly, from right to left. There is a pull from the skull back here at the rear of the base of the skull down to the shoulders. From the skull back here, right behind the ears, down to the front of the upper chest. And there's a lot of little muscles actually connecting the shoulder functioning to the skull. Well, let's talk about some of these pretty specifically, because it's normal to have the shoulder pulling on the skull. We've got musculature that comes down from the base of the rear of the skull, and it travels down the spine of the neck, the cervical spine, okay, in the center line of our bodies, and then it connects to the top and rear part of the shoulders. These big bones on our upper back that have all this motion are called scapulas, or shoulder blades, two names for the same bone. Watch them move so you know what I'm talking about. Look at my back, right? There's always a neutral position to the entire body's functioning, the shoulders included. Watch this, right? Up, down, front, back, internal rotation, external rotation, and the entire arm up to the shoulder. There's always a neutral position to the entire body. So this video is titled the 27th of July, -2. It's the 25th of July, 2026. Under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here, how the shoulders pull on the skull. Well, naturally, the right side connects from the top of this shoulder blade, or scapula, on the rear of the upper back, that big bone. The whole top part of this bone has this musculature connecting to it, called the upper trapezius, that comes up and connects to the base of the rear of the skull. That's how we can lift our shoulders up from back there, behind our skull. Muscles only pull. So muscles pull from the two endpoints, or multiple endpoints, where they connect to bones, and they just pull directly in line. That's all muscles could ever possibly do. So, the skull gets pulled on by the shoulders. But if we have a pull happening with this video's title on the 25th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, how the shoulders pull on the skull, if it is even from right to left, then we can stabilize in the center. But if we've got more of a pull from the right shoulder up to the skull than we do from the left shoulder up to the skull, now it's imbalanced. Or if we've got more of a pull from the left shoulder up to the skull than the right shoulder up to the skull, with the musculature connecting the shoulder to the skull, then it's imbalanced. Okay? Yikes. But here's the thing. Muscles are only as long as they are. You pull on muscles until you can't. They're only as long as they are. The wind's here now. The wind is blowing more than it was where I'm standing. Okay? When we extend something like the elbow to see this, the muscles that close the elbow hinge joint can only extend until the bones of the elbow hit into each other. Okay? You'll never possibly go any farther unless you break a bone or rupture a tendon, tear a ligament, or rip a muscle or something. You'll rip the muscle, you know, or one of those other three options basically would have to happen for the muscle to go longer or farther or pull more than where the bones it's connecting to physically hit into each other. Okay? So, muscles only pull. And we've got muscles connecting the shoulder to the skull, and quite a few of them, really. But muscles can get longer, and even though the muscle's not having pulling happening from it, the muscle's being pulled down on with this invisible force, truly, called gravity, okay? Earth's vertical gravity pull affects everything on the surface of the Earth the exact same, even what we choose to literally clothe our bodies with. Gravity has the same effect on our clothing that it has on our bodies. Okay? Clothing being the literal wording of anything physically placed onto the human being, or anything at all, but in the case of human being clothing, that's why we are In The Image Clothing Company, our 5-word company name with no spaces between the 5 words. This video is titled, the 25th of July, 2026. Under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here, how the shoulders pull on the skull? Gravity is one of the ways, because muscles can pull by getting closer together at their endpoints called insertions to bones. The muscle connects to the bones through these little things it uses to insert to the bones called tendons. And it can pull those two endpoints together of bone. There's actually multiple endpoints pulling together for some muscles in the body. But to just give the explanation of this, the muscle can pull the shoulder upward to the skull by the muscle actually working. And muscles doing all they can do to work and pull, contract. An electrical signal gets sent from the brain, down the brain stem, through the spine, and then out through the nervous system to the entire body to tell the muscle fibers, you know, like muscles, you can picture them being woven together, kind of like fabric, okay, like this cotton t-shirt I'm wearing. And then the fibers of the muscle get closer together and they pull, with an electrical system from the brain telling them to do so. The only other end is for the muscle to relax. If the muscle relaxes so much that Earth's vertical gravity pulls down on it because the muscle's not pulling to support the body up off of Earth's vertical gravity pull, then now we've got the shoulder weight pulling down on the skull it's connected to. Okay, this video is titled, the 25th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site, how the shoulder pulls on the skull. Gravity. Okay, but here's the thing. We've got this even opposing pull from the shoulders, from the right side and the left side, to stay neutral. Okay, pulling up to the skull and the spine that's in the center line of the body, okay? But, let's say you're right-handed. Living in this right-handed world, there's 85%, maybe 90%, give or take, of human beings across the planet Earth that use their right hand for just about everything. But if I ever take my right shoulder and put it even just the slightest bit farther from my skull, where the musculature is connecting from the shoulder to the skull through the insertion called tendons to the bones of the body, connecting from the bones of the shoulder through the musculature of the neck up to the bone of the skull. If this distance ever gets any farther away from the skull at the shoulder on the right side of the body than on the left side of the body, now we're pulling on the skull more on the right side of the body. But if you're ever doing anything with just one hand that's on only one side of the even center line of your body at the spine, as one of the things, meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull, and here comes the wind. Wow. This will happen if you're right-handed. You ever reach down with your right arm? You pull on your skull more on your right side because the entire arm goes everywhere the entire arm goes. So you reach down with your hand and your shoulder pulls on your skull. But you know, your skull's still this 10-pound, give or take, ball of weight on top of your body, straight above the spine, that meshes with Earth's vertical gravity pull. So now you're pulling on your skull from your shoulder. There's part of the answer to this video's title. On the 25th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site, how the shoulder pulls on the skull. Well, you reach your arm. When we straighten the elbow between the hand and the shoulder, the entire arm is just one straight stick, essentially. Anywhere any part of the arm goes, all of it comes. The whole hand and arm combo up to the shoulder is just in line when we straighten the elbow. Okay, gravity pulls the pendulum of the hand down from the other end of the shoulder, straight vertical with Earth's vertical gravity pull. If our bodies aren't altered, there truly is only one way the bones of the human being grow and mesh, and there's only one way the human body could ever physically, possibly, mechanically operate. It's universal laws like gravity that determine it. And the shape and length of our bones. Okay, they grow by themselves. There's only one way the human body has ever worked. Or ever will. Okay. But if the arms are not at an even distance connecting to the skull of the human being from the shoulder, well, they're still connecting to the skull, evenly on either side of the body, as in an even distance off to the side of the body from the center line of the spine, meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull, but also just the bones are the same length on both sides of the body, from the center line of the body, but also just, yeah, the body's got to be even. I mean, you have to be even with Earth's vertical gravity pull, or you just don't keep standing up. So, yeah, I mean, reaching with your right arm, this video's title, the 25th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site, is how the shoulders pull on the skull. Anytime you take any of your body and put it farther away on one side than the other side from the center line, you're pulling the musculature longer. You're truly just pulling musculature. It's like if I have my elbow bent at a 90-degree angle, like Earth's vertical gravity pull coming down and meshing with the horizontal surface of the Earth, that's also a 90-degree angle, and gravity truly does rest us in the neutral position. There's no way you could ever get the human being to do anything. It just needs to be allowed to work. There's no claim to that. This is In The Image Clothing Company's main site. Our slogan is allowing the body to work. Only a clothing company to allow the body to work here under In The Image Clothing Company, okay? Okay? Yeah, gravity just pulls us into a neutral position. Gravity pulls us down into good posture with these even mathematical opposing bends the body has from bottom to top, evenly mathematically opposing this vertical pull to gravity to stay vertical. The ankles bend backward, the knees bend forward, the hips bend backward, the low back bends forward, the mid back bends backward, and the upper back bends forward. Okay, the cervical spine, the neck, it's the upper back, the upper third of the spine, where the shoulders connect to as they come up and connect to the skull with the musculature of the shoulders. Okay, so this video's title, I know I say this often, the title of the video, while I'm filming it. But yes, on the 25th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site, how the shoulders pull on the skull. Well, yeah, it's just like straightening the elbow from a 90-degree bend, or right angle. The muscle on the inside of the function of the elbow, the biceps in this case, they actually get pulled, really just relaxed, longer. Okay? If we reach our arm down, the muscles connecting the shoulder to the skull just get pulled, really essentially just relaxed, longer. But we've got to remember there's a neutral position. Mathematically, there's no opinion to it. To the entire body. Okay. Here comes the wind. Again. Okay. Yikes. Alright, so, yeah. Gravity will pull on the shoulders. Down. Because if the shoulders don't pull themselves up, opposing the pull of gravity, then gravity will just pull our whole bodies down, essentially. And we just flop onto the ground. Okay, the vertical pull to gravity is always there on the surface of the planet Earth. So, our shoulders have to hold themselves up so that everything else in the body can also hold itself up, and the body can work all together. Activated as a whole. Anywhere any of the body goes, every part of it comes. It's all there, all connected. It's a kinetic chain, connected bone to bone to bone to bone to bone. Throughout the entire body, it's just bones connecting to create this human being, this machine, okay, of motion. This mechanical machine placed onto this rock in space we call Earth. The human being. This video is titled, the 25th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here, how the shoulder pulls on the skull. Well, in a couple different ways. Musculature can pull the shoulder up to the skull, and we're pulling being attached to the skull. So we're pulling on the skull, but we're getting the shoulder closer to the skull. With musculature's activation at the muscle fibers level, contracting, getting closer together with the electrical system sent from the brain to tell the body to work. But also gravity can pull our shoulders down by our shoulders relaxing and just letting the vertical pull of gravity on the planet Earth take over. And now the shoulder pulls on the skull because it's pulling down, with the muscle getting longer and farther away from where it connects to the skull. There's two sides. There's always a neutral position. Gravity passively shortens muscles, but the body's musculature can actively shorten muscles. Okay, opposing the pull of gravity. So there's two ways the skull can be pulled on by the shoulders. But if we're going to stand up, if we're going to breathe, that really does involve the shoulders, actually, to get up out of the way for the rib cage to expand and contract in 360 degrees all the way around every breath we take, so we can have the essence of human life continue to give us human life through the form of oxygen, oxygenating our blood that's then pumped through our entire body. The shoulders have to pull up and out of the way for the lungs to breathe within the rib cage so that we can stay alive. Okay. But gravity will always pull our shoulders down if we relax. Okay. And now the shoulders are just pulling on the skull, and it's not them doing anything. Gravity pulls us down from the neutral position of the body if we're not opposing it with the body's musculature activating. So, this video's title, this is a huge one. I love it. The 25th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here, down in the shade of these trees. How the shoulder pulls on the skull. Well, there's multiple muscles connecting the shoulder up to the skull, but the jaw is the shoulder. A video's title here under In The Image Clothing Company's main site currently, as of the 25th of July, 2026. As you can see, there's musculature connecting the lower jaw bone, this bone here called the mandible, the chin, or the jaw line area, however you know it personally. It's where our lower teeth are connected into. At the rear of this lower jaw bone, there's musculature connecting from there down to the edges of our shoulders. And we are a clothing company under In the Image Clothing Company, our 5-word company name, no spaces between the 5 words. Anyway, watch the collar of my top, my t-shirt here, and my necklace as well, move as I just contract or activate this jaw musculature going through the collar of my top, more than just how the jaw is naturally stabilizing my entire body. Watch this. Okay? So, the jaw is the skull. It's part of the skull. So to answer this video's title, on the 25th of July, 2026, how the shoulder pulls on the skull, well, through the jaw. You can see it. I mean, you can see it. I'm not just telling you something within the body that you don't really understand if you don't. You can see the musculature coming from my jaw to my shoulder. So the collars of our tops need to stay centered and snug. But, yeah, I mean, just being right-handed, if you ever have a moment in your life, I mean it, like 1 second, or even shorter amount of time than that you have your right shoulder, or your left, but either shoulder, farther away from the skull than the other shoulder, you're pulling on the musculature that's connecting it to the skull more than on the other side of the body. But there's always this vertical pull to gravity, meshing with the center line of our bodies at the spine, coming up and supporting the center of the skull from directly beneath it. Okay? So, that's just like a single moment in time. If you've got just more pull happening on one side of the skull from the shoulder, being farther from the skull than the other side of the body. But if you are right-handed or even left-handed, but just dominant with one side of your body, anytime you do anything, you hold something in your hand, you reach forward, backward, over, down, the wind blows. Darn it, man. That wind's really blowing now. The audio is the point, right, of the noise from the wind. Man. I'm doing what I can. I really am. I'm doing what I can here to get these videos documented. Permanent pieces of truth. It's just another date-marked documentation under any of the 4 sides of In the Image Clothing Company that it is at the time. In this case, on the 25th of July, 2026, through the wind noise, this is a video under our main side of In the Image Clothing Company titled, How the Shoulder Pulls on the Skull. Okay? So, here's the thing. Man, that wind is something else, bro. It's just day after day after day after day after day. I deal with just trying to have it be quiet enough to film a relatively good video outside like this. That's why it's just such a big deal to me, you know. It's been a couple of years just about of doing this. So, yeah, here's the thing. Shoot. Gravity's got the same effect on our clothing that it has on our bodies. If we've got the clothing any farther off one shoulder than the other shoulder, that's just like having the musculature just any distance farther away from the skull where it connects than the other shoulder, having its musculature connecting to the shoulder and to the skull. Okay? So when we say clothing has to fit And when we discuss, when I've said many times, Evan Strong, me, the founder and leader for life of In the Image Clothing Company, I've said tops are like a cage for the shoulders. It's a good way to see it, where they just lock the shoulders in place and sit right at the very edges. We need joints of material of clothing meshing with joints of body parts. 3 bones come to meet at the edge of the shoulder, and then we've got the material coming to join or meet at the edge of the shoulder as well. The literal wording, the bones join, that is a joint of bones, right? The clothing material joins, it's a joint of clothing material, okay? Or it's a joint of material that is literally clothing our bodies. It's just the literal wording. We're discussing physics. We're not a fashion company under In the Image Clothing Company. It's about the human body's functioning. And the only way that it ever possibly could, truly, discussed so thoroughly you couldn't possibly dispute the information, is our goal. And that's what we do. That's what we've done up until now, at least. I can speak for myself as the founder and leader for life of In the Image Clothing Company. Okay? Because gravity having the same effect on our clothing that it has on our bodies answers this video's title, in addition to what we've already answered it with. On the 25th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here, how the shoulder pulls on the skull. Gravity will pull the shoulder down regardless of if we just had this human body designed by God that grew by itself, or if we as human beings make these things we call clothing items, or just choose to clothe our shoulders with anything at all. Now you've got a secondary thing placed onto the shoulder. The shoulder has to hold itself up already off of Earth's vertical gravity pull by pulling musculature from the shoulder up to the skull to raise the shoulder upward. But you place clothing onto your body, and even the shirt tail clear down here is hanging on the body from clear up here at the shoulder. All the way down to my waist here, this whole entire top item is sitting with Earth's vertical gravity pull on the top of my shoulders. Okay? So if you've got clothing that's imbalanced and off to one side only, you're not just stretching out or pulling on your shoulder musculature, but you're pulling on the skull from the shoulder. How the shoulder pulls on the skull. This video's title on the 25th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site. There you go, right? So, yeah. The thing is, the focus is the skull, because you can massage the musculature of your neck and the musculature that's coming to your jaw, which is also musculature of your neck, all you'd like to for the rest of your life, every single day. But what happens is we get bone spurs created. You know, I discuss it like this because this is what it is. Let me tell you what it is. If you don't know what a bone spur is, the muscle connecting to a bone and then traveling through the main part of the muscle and connecting to another bone pulls the two endpoints or multiple endpoints together. But muscles have to track in line, or have to pull in line, how the bones are connected, evenly opposing the neutral in the center or in the middle of two sides. Okay? Like with the shoulders, the right shoulder pulls and the left shoulder pulls. And you're centered. The left shoulder pulls from the shoulder up to the skull, is what I mean. And then the right shoulder pulls from the shoulder up to the skull. And now you're centered. because there's two opposing sides evenly pulling. So you stay even. Okay? The pull has to be even on the right side and the left side. The shoulder comes up and in toward the body, or down and out away from the body to pull on the skull. Okay? Shoot. Okay, what I'm saying is, this is huge. The 25th of July, 2026, in the Image Clothing Company's main site, this video's title here, How the Shoulder Pulls on the Skull. Okay? So, if muscles are pulling on bones where they connect to them or insert to them through tendons, then if this pull isn't even, what'll happen is you've got an uneven amount of pulling happening on the bone. So if the right shoulder, being in this 85, maybe 90%, give or take, right-handed world we live in, if you're using your right hand almost always, more than your left though at all, really, actually, and it's just farther from your skull, you're not just elongating or stretching out or pulling on the muscle connecting the shoulder to the skull, but you're pulling on the bone of the skull that the shoulder is connected to through the musculature. You're just pulling on the skull, which is the video's title, question, how the shoulder pulls on the skull, right? The 25th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here. But it's not just that the muscle is being pulled, the muscle is yanking, pulling down on the bone of the skull. And so this is the problem. You'll never fix pain or tension, tightness, imbalances, even through the airplane noise. Let me say this, but let me wait for just a second. This is huge. Okay? In the body with the musculature, you're never going to fix an imbalance or tightness by addressing the musculature. Hear me out. Hear me correct. That's why I said at the beginning, hear me out. Because this is opposing what a lot of people say, but this is the truth. It's just physics. There's opposing poles on either side of a neutral position to the body. The neutral position for the skull is Earth's vertical gravity pull directly above the spine. If we just massage the muscle out or just push into the muscle fiber to try to loosen up what we think is just tight, stiff muscles of the neck connecting the shoulder to the skull, that's not going to do anything. Because muscles just move. They get shorter, they get longer, they contract, they relax, they pull, they elongate, right? All the same thing, basically just said differently. They pull upward, opposing Earth's vertical gravity pull, or they relax and gravity pulls them downward, okay? Opposing the two sides of the neutral height to the shoulder. Connecting up to the skull bone, okay? The skull is made up of a lot of different little bones, kind of like the Earth's crust, if you know how that works. If not, I'll explain a little bit of it. I'll explain it, yeah. There's a lot of little different plates of bone, or just like flat bones around the skull, making up the whole skull. Yikes, I'm choking up there. So, the skull is just a bone, but it's actually made up of a lot of different little bones, meaning just smaller than the skull as a whole. And so, the musculature of the shoulder inserts through a tendon to the bone of the shoulder, but then it comes up and it inserts I'm I'm just moving my shoulders around so much. To the base of the skull, okay? The shoulder muscle inserts to the base of the skull through a tendon. So the main part of the muscles of the shoulders, they are just muscles. They're supposed to move. But the tendons are supposed to just be a nice fixed point to the bones that connect the muscle to the bone. Okay? So what happens is, it's kind of like tying a rope to something. You know, you can have some give in the rope a little bit, but where the rope's tied to something, you want that to be a very solid fixed point that doesn't move. Well, the rope could be the muscle of the neck connecting from the shoulder to the base of the skull to lift the shoulder. Okay? Answering this video's title, on the 25th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here, how the shoulder pulls on the skull. Well, where the muscle connects to the skull at this tendon, it shouldn't really ever change. But if the shoulder is constantly pulling down like this, just with gravity on the skull, the tendon that connects the muscle to the skull, or the insertion from the muscle to the skull, coming from the shoulder, can pull on the bone of the skull so much that it actually can deform and misshapen the skull bone, and then just the tendon as well. The fibrous makeup of tendons is kind of like scar tissue in itself. It really is. It's a really tough tissue. It's not like how muscles are nice and pliable and you could almost say squishy. Tendons are very firm. It's kind of like between the texture of a muscle and a bone. A bone is essentially as hard as like a stick. And somewhere between the texture of muscle and bone, you've got these tendons connecting muscles to bones. Okay? But where these tendons connect to the skull, the tendon can grow unnaturally if you've got one shoulder pulling on the skull more on one side than the other side. You're just pulling on the skull bone, you're pulling on the tendon connecting the musculature to the bone of the skull, and it can just over time build up what we call chronic patterning. And a bone spur, scar tissue, the bone's growing, the tendon's tissue is getting all scarred up and excessively large. And so no matter what you do to the musculature of the neck, trying to help relieve tension in the neck or the shoulder connecting to the base of the skull, answering this video's title on the 25th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here, how the shoulder pulls on the skull. Well, gravity, okay, or just the musculature activating opposing gravity connecting to the skull. Clothing, the only thing physically placed on our physical bodies, the literal word of clothing, in this case the top of our shoulders, with anything that gravity has the same effect on that it has on our bodies. Okay, gravity affects clothing on our bodies the same way that gravity affects our bodies. So any kind of effect that gravity's having pulling down on the shoulder is amplified by the weight of what's ever on our shoulder. And also just the fit too, is if it's just pulling our shoulder down in an unnatural position because it's not fitting where the bones join at the edge of the shoulder with where the joints of the material are in the same location. Anyway, so the point is, here's the thing.